Go, Jake.
Hello, this is my pitch deck for my final major project for my final year in college, and it's called Snotty Project Redo,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a remake or reimagining of the original Snotty Sewer, but integrating my own personal ideas and concepts for the game. Elevator pitch, I mean, for the game is Snotty Sewer meets The Binding of Isaac, which I'll explain on. I want to keep the genre still, primarily the same, focusing on horror, but I also want to add some comedy into it, considering how, Snotty's kind of taken in a joking manner now. And the one small theme is they sewer, dark and gritty. But since this is going to be my own spin on it, I want to make the gameplay much more fast paced, like to under a minute to a 2 minute pace per game. As for modes I've planned, I'm considering single player and endless, where I mean, like, totally, that's how the game is going to be played. You'll be playing by yourself, and it will just be endless, seeing how far you can get. The outcome I plan for what I expect to be finished by the end of this is one playable level, being the sewers, and at least 20 or more modifiers which you can select from. The development time I have is, I believe, 12 weeks or something along the lines of that. So I'll have 24 days to work on this. And the support I'll need is tutorials online which fit what I am working for, and the original assets from sponsor, which I will need to contact the developers of Pinnacle Games for. Now, this is the mood board of my actions. As you see, the sewer system, of course, the sewer systems here from Resident Evil. But I've also got, Hades 2 right here, and Hades 2 for, picking each modifier. This is a major inspiration of mine. One up here where it shows you every modifier you've got, and also one down here for the for in experimentation with the art design. And of course, this one here as inspiration for picking a modifier, how that will be presented to you. As for the overview, like I said before, each game will take around 1 to 2 minutes with 10 buttons to press before the exit opens. After each escape will be presented with 3 modifiers, which include buffs to your player's statistics, but also include debuffs towards you or add a buff towards the enemy AI. The game will repeat constantly until the player eventually dies, where the game will start from scratch without any buffs. Features, once again, 20 selectable modifiers, a read-on map, as I do not believe I can use the original Sky Sewers map, so I'll have to make my own from scratch. A speedrun mode, which just adds a timer up in the corner, a leaderboard, so you can see the highest tier you got to, or how many modifiers you had running. As for the game aim, I aim for a complete functioning game by the end of this, even depending on what the quality is, as long as it's playable. And I want to release the game and show it off to Pinball Games to see what they think about it and if they consider it a spiritual sequel, as one would put it. My aims for this are, of course, I'm going to use this to learn more about C plus coding language of Unity, and to better understand working around problem solving throughout the most of the time out of this project, as I've noticed that was something I messed up on last year. I'm also I want to learn about designing and marketing this, as Snotty Sewers beforehand was a very small release, so I want to get a bigger audience for this before I put it out there, which I will hopefully do so through an itch.io page, which will draw attention to it. As for the skills I'm improving, once again, direct improving with my C plus learning, but I want to better learn how to respond to the Q&A feedback throughout the playtesting. As last year, I will be transparent, I mostly ignored the Q&A testing feedback, and I want to figure out how to decipher which feedback will either be positive or negative, and if it will actually impact the outcome of the final project. Now, what I aim to achieve for this, once again, want to improve the game. and I can publicly use it in portfolios online for jobs in the history of game design, show off what I am capable of, and to analyze the detailed work I put into it, what's most important for the final product. Basically, I want to achieve to make something I am happy with, and as this help for progression goals, it will help my progression goals through testing all the skills I've learned throughout this course. But also, I want to work on this in a way which will, push everything I've learned to the max in any way possible, such as development and problem solving, because this will definitely be a hard thing for me to code properly. Now, my experience, of course, you know who I am. I'm Jake Watson. I've been on this course since year one, and here are a couple of games I've created. The first one, Tainted Glory, was created over a span of 3 weeks, I believe, and was developed for a class project, getting shown off at a local event and was greeted with positive feedback. And here's the second one, Interface Off, created over 3 weeks as a part of a game jam with peers upstairs in the games art course, and was met with really good positive feedback, leading to it being added to a demo list on Steam. And my last one, being my last year's FMP project, Hexagon Vanguard, was created over 6 weeks and was a fully playable game, which was a functioning counterfeit. It was a very ambitious project, but got released to itch.io with mixed reception. Now, the timeline of this, we're starting in February 2025, and we're around here. First off, I'm going to start off with the development or research of my project, finding tools I can use, such as photos of sewers, or real life sewers, themes, or media, and games like that I can use. Afterwards, I will then focus on creating a design document for the project. Then we'll be in April 2025, the design document I can use to fully emphasize my ambitions and scope of the project. This is when practical development will begin, and I'll focus completely in on the major things first, such as the main mechanics of the modifiers, the enemy AI, and the map. And I'll manage what I'm working on for a Trello board, which I'll constantly update with every day. And then, hopefully, sometime between that and continued development, we'll have an alpha build which people can try out, playtest it, and so I can get QA feedback afterwards. And then continuing development, this is much more nearing the end, and I'll be focusing on minor sections of the development which would be pushed back due to being less important, but I can add them at the end, such as eye training or animations. And in May 2025, complete the game, create an itch.io page, and upload the project. Now, the support needed, I'll need a couple of tutorials, such as a tutorial here on how to build a survival horror game, which I can use to emphasize the horror theme of Snotty Sewer, but also, trying to take my own spin a bit by cherry picking things from these tutorials to help I improve the shortcomings of all of this original game, also helping to make my own iteration. Secondly, stats and modifiers tutorial, which I will heavily need to coding the needed additional statistics for the player and the AI, and will help structure one of the most important mechanics of this remake or reimagining. And finally, enemy AI. I need this to make the Snotty move around, but I want to code it in a way where it's more innovative than the original, because I noticed that the original Snotty had problems where they'd walk through walls, get stuck in place occasionally. So I want to improve it from the original, make it more engaging instead of just like a game of cat and mouse. As for research, I've looked at horror and robot games, as I picked Resident Evil 7 because there was a sewer section in this game, and for around £16, it is sold 2 million to 5 million copies, which is pretty good in my opinion. A smaller game I found, which is set directly in a sewer called Damn Sewer, which is £1.69, which sold around 300 to 500 copies. And as roguelikes, I looked at the two inspirations I mainly had, such as Hades 2, which is a £25 game which sold around 2 million to 5 million copies, and The Binding of Isaac, a £11 game which sold around 5 million to 10 million copies. Now, my research for my audience, I'm looking at three different audiences, the main being horror, and the secondary being roguelike enjoyers and competitive players. For horror, this audience is because, Snotty Sewer is a horror game, so I wanted to be something they'd enjoy. And I know it's hard to make Snotty scary considering how it looks, but I think I can figure out some ways to make him scary by innovating. As for the secondary audience, this is the new audience I want to grab. This one is sort of because, adding roguelites and all, that's an entirely new thing the original game never had. So we'll include an entirely different audience, such as, the original, sorry, complete. And I want to, look into this new audience and understand what they like about roguelikes so I can understand how to make it work properly in a way they enjoy. And finally, competitive players, of course, this new iteration of the game is going to be very difficult as it progresses, which might fuel some competitive play for people who really want to get as far as they can and push themselves to the max of this game. So I want to reward that kind of mindset by including rewards or a leaderboard, as small as that is, to reward them for trying to push as far as they can with this game.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, really interesting, Jay. I think you've raised some good points on like what you plan to improve about that game and what you aim to kind of achieve with it. Something I'd like to raise is just 20. You put 20 modifiers as your goal. What are you ranging is a modifier? Like, what's the smallest change and the biggest change one could cause?
I could definitely say the smallest modifiers, of course, would be based upon the statistics. Let's say a modifier which makes you 20% faster, but also there's extra buttons you have to press out. Or I don't know, Snowman's 50% faster, but there's 5 less buttons you have to press. Those are like the smallest modifiers I could add. And like the least important modifiers, which are like extremely innovative and would completely change the game, are like very rare ones, which like push the game, like, oh, you have to beat the game in 60 seconds or you die instantly. That's what modifiers would do.
Okay. And then if we're thinking about this game, like why this IP? Why have you looked to kind of fix this game now?
Well, because as I have quite the experience with Sonic, and I saw a chance in remaking the game from scratch to try and fix its problems, as the original has many, many bugs and shortcomings, which just I remember doing a forum recently, and the main complaint I saw about Snotty is how you could just compare it to a walking simulator, as the AI is not that threatening, as you can easily work around it. And so I want to fix that by making my own iteration a spiritual sequel.
Cool. And are you gonna contact the developers for the assets that you
Of
need?
course, I'm going to have to contact them to see if they are willing to help create this project.
And what if they are not wanting to share the assets? What would you do then with the project? Because you wouldn't be able to kind of scrap it and change it. You'd have to keep pushing forward. What would you do as like a problem solver?
If I was not able to get my hands on the assets, I have a plan where I would do it on a 2D top down instead of it being, the 3D. That would be my plan in case I can't get the assets of the original game.
Cool. Well, thank you, Jake.